Well, hi crochet friends. Thank you so much for clicking into this video. I'm going to show you how to do some ribbing today. This is a really nice stitch that we work in single crochets in the back loop only to create this ridge that has a lot of give. And then as you can see with a larger yarn, a thicker yarn, it makes for a really cozy, rigid texture that works up pretty quickly and is a lot of fun to make. So let's get started. Okay, to get started on this stitch, like always, we're going to make ourselves a slip stitch, pull through, put your hook in. Now the swatch that I have as an example in the photos, and possibly the one that might be in the intro of the video, I'm not sure as I'm filming this, but the swatch that I have is twice as big as I want it to be for the sake of showing you how to do this. So that swatch was 20 stitches. I am going to do a 10 stitch swatch here. You can do however large you want it to be. But the thing at the beginning of the foundation chain here, we are going to do the number of stitches you want plus 1 for your base chain. So I'm going to do 10, which means I'm going to put 11 on my hook. Full disclosure, I don't love this hook. It's pretty old, but it's the only one I had in this size. So we're going to roll with it. So I've got 11 chains on my hook right now. So what we're going to do, single crochet into the second chain from the hook. And all the way across. This is a pretty quick pattern. Now I know single crochets aren't exactly the quickest stitch to work, but I'm using a relatively large yarn. So if I'm working too fast, feel free to pause this video and meet me at the end. And for those of you that crochet much faster than I do, I apologize. I'm not the fastest, but it's okay. You don't have to be. Everybody crochets at their own pace. Okay. So if you're following along with me, you should be at the end of your row right now. You should have 10 stitches across. And I do. So here we go. Let's start the first ridge. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to single crochet across. However, we're not going to do it in both loops like we normally would. So if you see this stitch, I just turned it over and I'm at the top. What we're going to do is just work into this back loop. Not that one, just that one. I'll show you one real quick. And we'll do our single crochet as normal. You can already kind of see what's happening here. It's leaving this ridge open. And as we work across the row, that'll become more clear. But now that we've done that one, we're going to do the same thing across the back loops of all of this first row. So single crochet, go into your back loop only, and do your single crochet as normal. And then again, and again, just following those back loops all the way across the top of the row. Oh. and then through. I'm going to work through this and do a few rows so you can start to see how it begins to take shape. But it's essentially the same thing as you go all the way across the project. So if you're following along with me, you're at the end of your second row and you have single crocheted into the back loop of that first row only. So now let's work our way into our third one. Chain one, turn, and then the same thing we did in that last row, we're going to do in this one. So let's go into our first one, single crochet into that back loop all the way across. Into the back loop. So this is a stitch that can get pretty fun to work because there's really no counting, there's no thinking. You just, like, this is one of those stitches where you put on your favorite movie or TV show and just have yourself a day. I got started working on a swatch last night for it, and that's exactly what happened. Now I've got a very large, oversized kitchen rag or a guitar rag to wipe my strings down. I found that's been nice. Okay, so again, we are at the end of the third row, and by now you should start to see this ridge pattern coming along. You can see it on the back too. But just for good measure, let's keep working together for a little bit so we can really start to see that ridging take shape. Again, I love this stitch for hats. I got into making my own hats several years ago while I was working at a factory, working overnight shifts, and I just needed to find a way to use up some extra time. And this is ultimately what I ended up doing. I made these ribbed, I guess, hats. It was very therapeutic for me. Okay. So going into the back row. So that's pretty much this pattern in a nutshell. Is get to the end of your row, chain one, and then back loop only single crochets all the way across. It's very simple to do, and it adds a lot of texture to whatever project you're working on. And that's what it's all about. Finding new stitches that you can then work into projects. If you like to follow patterns, a lot of patterns use this. Well, I got myself a knot. Never fails. Every time I sit down and film one of these, I, without a doubt, end up with some yarn crisis over here. But it's okay. See, problem solved. But I suppose that's kind of a good way for you to know that I'm real human sitting here filming these. All right, we're going to go across and do this last row here so you can see how it comes together. And then, if you're still following along with me and keeping good pace, you're congratulations, you've learned a new stitch or a new technique that you can then use on your own projects. If you are having trouble with this, just remember it is the back loop of these rows. Whenever you get to the top of a new row, it's just, like a normal stitch, we're going to go under both loops, right? And then pull up. We are just going to go into that back one. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. And I'd be happy to do the best I can answering them. But here you go. This is our ribbing. You keep going with that. In fact, I might actually keep going with this and make an oversized winter hat this year. But that is the ribbing. I hope you liked the tutorial. I hope that you are learning something from me. If you are, feel free to subscribe. Give me a like, give me a follow. Any sort of engagement helps. And I'll be back with another tutorial soon. Thanks so much. Have a good day.